Once upon a time, in Surulere, Lagos State, was a Face Me, I Face You compound. You know those types of buildings where everybody's door faces everybody's door? The kind of compound where everybody knows your business. The kind of place where you can't even sneeze in your room without your neighbor shouting, "God bless you," from their own room. That was where a man called Femi lived. The whole compound was like one big Nollywood movie, full of drama and noise. You would hear pans and pots clanging in the corridors as women cook, children screaming as they played Tinko Tinko outside, and women choking their mouths into everybody's business. Now, Femi was the main character of the many dramas in the compound. Everybody knew him, but not for anything good though. Some people would just shake their heads for him, others would laugh at him openly. But one thing was for sure, you could not talk about that compound without mentioning his name. Femi wasn't a bad person. He wasn't that lazy either. It was just that his biggest problem was his mouth. The guy could talk. He had a way with words that was like magic. He could make you believe he was about to sign a multi-million naira deal even when his stomach was rumbling. He was a master of grand promises, but his life was just empty. Every single day, he would wake up with a new beautiful dream in his head and on paper. But before the sun would go down, that dream would have disappeared and he would start thinking of something else. His landlord had suffered a lot in his hands. It was like a weekly ritual for the landlord to come banging on Femi's door shouting, "Femi, Femi, where's my rent money?" Femi would just smile and respond with so much confidence, "Don't worry, Baba landlord, money will enter my account by morning tomorrow and I will pay your rent immediately. Even Sef, I'm waiting for a big contract to drop." But money would come and nothing would happen. Soon, the landlord got tired of the empty talk. His knocking became harder and his threats became louder. But if the landlord was a problem, the young people in the compound were violence. Whenever Femi walked by, they would start their cruise. "See Mr. Big Talk," one person would whisper to anyone who was close by. Another would reply, "Na so mouth he get," whereas his pocket always dey empty. And laughter would follow. The ladies washing clothes at the tap would whisper and giggle, pointing at him. Some of the guys would even start mimicking him. "Contract don't land, business don't blow," until the whole place echoed with their mockery. The elderly, though, were different. The old mamas and papas who had seen it all, they didn't laugh. They just shook their heads in pity and would say, "This boy talks too much for someone who has nothing to show for it. He has used his own mouth to spoil his life." All this mixing of mockery and pity weighed on Femi. He would lie awake at night, staring at the cracks in the walls of his room, feeling a heavy shame, knowing that he was not what he tried to be outside and that he was stuck. Femi grew up in Ajegunle, Lagos. His mother was a petty trader who sold roasted corn and groundnut by the roadside, and his father, a bus driver. Even as a small boy, Femi was always restless and always looking for shortcuts. In school, his teachers praised his sharp mind, but warned that he was too clever for his own good. By secondary school, he gave up on school. He dropped out, telling everyone that the street would make him reach faster than the classroom. At first, it looked like he might be right. He started selling recharge cards and doing phone charging business. And for months, his pocket was always full of cash. But he wasted the money quickly. Then he tried selling Okrika clothes, second-hand thrift clothes, at Balogun Market. But one day, a heavy rain came and destroyed all his goods beyond recognition. After that, he followed his friends into sports betting. But he was a coaster of winning one day and losing everything the next. A cousin even got him a truck loading job in Apapa, but Femi told himself that that kind of hard labor was not for him. So he left it. The cycle just kept repeating. A new business idea or job today, a failed dream tomorrow. Whenever there was a contribution for something in the compound, Femi gave excuses because he never had money to contribute. Well, everybody in the compound just expected it. That's just Femi, big mouth, no money. And the name, the man with big mouth, stuck in the compound. But Femi was tired of the mocking voices, the pitying looks, the landlord's constant knocking,
and the hunger that was his shadow. One evening, as he sat on a broken plastic chair, the smell of fried plantain from Amachinedu's window making his stomach growl, children running past him, his heart burned in his chest.
This cannot continue, he muttered to himself. I cannot die poor in this my life. He knew he had no money, no job, no skill that anyone respected. But he had one thing, his mouth. He could talk, he could persuade, he could perform. What if he used that gift in a different way, he thought. If business don't fail me, not mean say I know fit still become something bigger. A man with power, a man chosen by God. If I say I have a gift, they will believe. These people are looking for hope with the way this country is, and if I can give it to them, I can make money out of them. And so, the plan took root in his heart. He smiled in the darkness, his teeth flashing. The compound would no longer mock him. Soon, they would bow to him, he said in his heart. And the very next day, he saw an opportunity.
Iyatunde, the compound's chief gossip, came out of her room, coughing so loudly in a way that could even make mosquitoes catch cold. She leaned on the wall, fanning herself with a piece of carton. My chest is on fire, oh. This cough will not kill me, oh, she shouted, trying to gain sympathy. Femi's eyes followed her, thinking of how he can make something out of it. The news of Iyatunde's cough traveled faster than the smell of fried fish in the compound. She was not a woman who suffered quietly. By evening, she had announced her sickness to everyone who came near her door. She sat on a low stool in the corridor, coughing and spitting into a rusty tin, groaning for all to hear. This cough will finish me, oh. I cannot breathe again, oh. She cried, holding her chest dramatically. Then Femi appeared from his room. He stepped out slowly, adjusting his faded loose shirt as though he was preparing for something serious, and walked up to her. Iyatunde, he began, lowering his voice to a deep, deliberate tone. I know why you are coughing. The other neighbors who were in the corridor raised their brows. Iyatunde herself stopped fanning and blinked. You know why I am coughing? How? Did you do something to me, or are you a doctor now? She asked. Femi shook his head and kept his face with all seriousness, like a man carrying deep revelations. No, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not the cause of your illness. Last night, in my dream, I saw an angel descend from heaven and held me in the hand. In the dream, the angel led me to stand before a pot of boiling herbs, and it said to me, this is medicine for someone around you. I did not understand, but now, seeing you here, I know it is for you. Even my spirit within now bears witness of it, he said. The other neighbors muttered, dream care, angel care, when this one starts? Without saying a word, and ignoring all the side comments from the other neighbors, Femi went into his room and returned with a bottle of herb he had secretly bought from a strong traditional Agbo woman in another area earlier that morning when he saw Iyatunde coughing. I prepared this morning with the instructions the angel from heaven gave me last night. Kick, drink it, and you'll be fine soon, he said, handing over the bottle of herb to Iyatunde. Iyatunde, unsure, but wanting her terrible cough to go so bad, slowly stretched her hand to accept the bottle of herb. The neighbors stared at her, their eyes as though they were warning her to be careful. By the next morning, Iyatunde's cough began to ease, and by the morning of the second day, it was completely gone. Whether it was the herbs or simply time passing, no one could say, but Iyatunde was convinced. That morning, she cooked a big pot of jollof rice, made a big-sized food flask with it, and large pieces of beef meat, and took to Femi with a bottle of chilled coke. She even began to campaign for him from one end of the compound to the other. My people, we are blessed in this yard though. Femi is not an ordinary man anymore. He healed me with just one small bottle of herb from heaven. He has gotten a gift from God himself, she told everyone. Her loud voice traveled even to the landlord's room. Neighbors shook their heads in wonder. Was this not the same Femi who owed rent? Now the gossip queen was calling him a man of power? Well, soon another test came. One hot evening that same week, Mr. Adebayo's old generator broke down. This generator was legendary in the compound. loud, stubborn, and almost as old as the man himself. But he loved it because it powered his small shop. On that day, no matter how many times he pulled the rope, the machine refused to start. Sweat dripped down his face as he cursed under his breath. "Ah, this useless thing! You want to disgrace me today?" he shouted, hitting it with his palm. The neighbors watched from where they sat. Some offered advice. "Pour more engine oil," one said. "Change the plug," another suggested. Then Femi emerged from his room, walking slowly. He carried himself with the authority of a prophet, raised his hand, and commanded, "Move aside. This is not ordinary. It requires power." The neighbors giggled. "What is he trying to do?" they mocked. Femi laid one hand on the stubborn generator, his other hand raised to the sky. He began chanting, "Fire of power, enter. Spirit of life, enter. Hear the voice of the prophet now, enter." Then he burst out into strange tongues. The neighbors began to move close, curious about his performance. As they got closer and focused on his performance, Femi quickly bent low, his sharp eyes catching the loose wire sticking out. With quick fingers, he adjusted it, then pulled the rope. The generator roared to life again. The yard exploded. Women clapped. The men shook their heads in awe. Teenage children were shouting, "See power, see power. Uncle Femi now has power." Mr. Adebayo was the most shocked of all. He raised his hands right there and shouted, "Femi, you are truly a man of God now." Oh. He wiped his sweaty face, reached into his pocket and pulled out 2,000 naira notes and gave to Femi. "Take this, please. You have helped me today." Femi accepted it with a dramatic solemn bow, but inside his heart he was dancing like a new bride at a wedding. He had secretly tampered with the generator earlier that afternoon and so knew the right thing to do and where to touch. Everyone in the yard jubilated and believed they now had a prophet in the compound. That night, his room became a banquet. Plates of rice and stew, yam and hot pepper soup, bowl of fufu and soup arrived from different neighbors. Mothers instructed their teenage children to fetch water for him. For the first time in years, Femi lay back on his bed that night with full stomach and money in his pocket. He smiled into the darkness, whispering, "This is just the beginning." The Face Me I Face You compound that once rang with mocking laughter whenever Femi walked past soon changed its tone. People who once mocked him now greeted him with respect, whispering, "Good evening, Prophet Femi." His clothes that were once always wrinkled and dirty now smelled of soap and starch. Grateful neighbors volunteered to wash and iron them for him. He started walking in the compound with his head high, as if he was no longer the same man who always hides from the landlord. But the biggest change was the way people now brought their problems to his door. One evening, one woman from the next compound came crying that her husband refused to give her chop money. She begged Femi to lay hands on her so that her husband's heart would soften towards her. Femi placed his palm gently on her forehead, muttered some words, ordered her to drop seed money, and told her to go back with faith. That evening, the husband, who just naturally felt guilty for how he has been making his wife sad, even though it wasn't his fault because country had, decided to give his wife money that evening. The next morning, the woman was at Femi's door again, singing praises and offering him a small bag of Ijebu gari. Another time, a man came complaining of stomach pains. Femi laid his hand on the man's head and then told him to drink water and rest. The man's pain disappeared by the next day because, of course, it was really just proper rest he needed, and as ordinary as any small illness passing on its own. But the mumu man too came the next day with a small keg of groundnut oil from his shop to offer as Thanksgiving to Femi. So comic scenes filled the compound daily. People would line up outside his door as if the room was temple of the Lord. One woman even asked him to bless her pot of egusi soup so that it would not spoil quickly, so she and her family will manage it for days. Another asked him to pray so that NEPA would not remember to cut her lights in her room because she doesn't have money to pay NEPA yet. They always fought over who would enter first, sometimes exchanging insults right outside his door. Femi soaked it all in. He had transformed himself into something greater than a hustler. He was now Prophet Femi. The same mouth that once brought him shame now brought him glory. The whole thing was just like juju. Femi's confidence did not stop there. He decided to expand his miracles. One afternoon, he called a small group of neighbors, the guys in the compound, to his room. He lowered his voice and spoke with authority. "Last night, the spirit revealed numbers to me," he said. "Numbers for the lottery." The guys leaned closer.
I cannot tell you everything, Femi continued. But I will play, and when it comes out, you will know that the gift in me is real for sure. The next day, he went to a faraway street where no one knew him and quietly bought several lottery tickets, covering as many numbers as he could afford. When the results came, one of his tickets matched. He rushed back, waving a ticket in the air. Did I not say it? The numbers were shown to me. The young men marveled and hailed him. Great prophet Femi, they shouted. Femi accepted his praise with a humble face and burst out in laughter when he entered his room at their foolishness. From then on, no one doubted his supposed gift. Every cough, every headache, every quarrel was brought to his door. People bowed when they passed him in the corridor. When he spoke, they nodded as if his words carried the weight of heaven. He started paying him good amounts of money to get lucky lotto numbers. It was during this season of glory that a new tenant arrived. Chioma moved into one of the rooms at the back of the compound. She was a young woman, quiet and polite. Unlike the other tenants, she did not join the crowd that rushed to Femi's door with problems. She greeted him with respect, but stayed on her own. Femi noticed her immediately. He rubbed his palms together and smiled, saying, "Very soon this swan will soon fall as well." Chioma greeted the neighbors politely but did not join their gossip circles. A few of the neighbors respected her because of this. But soon, they also began to notice her closely and began to whisper, "She is fine, but she looks like somebody who is carrying plenty wahala on her head. She's always moody and always lost in her thoughts." It was true. Chioma had indeed come with problems. She had been a secretary in a small logistics office at Yaba, but when the company folded, she lost her job. Her savings finished quickly, and the little remaining she used to rent a room in the compound. Now, the one she had left barely lasted. Soon she was eating once a day, sometimes only drinking garri at night to fill her stomach. Just like the other tenants, Femi also wondered what could be the problem with Chioma. Then one day when he went to the backyard, he overheard Chioma from her room making a call and complaining to the receiver that she hasn't gotten a job yet and is starving. Femi saw this as another opportunity to play his tricks. The next evening, Chioma was outside peeling yam when Femi walked up to her. He had ironed his shirt, combed his hair neatly, and was walking like a prophet on a special assignment. He cleared his throat loudly so that everyone around could hear him. "My sister," he began with a deep and serious voice. "Last night, as I prayed, your face appeared before me." Chioma looked up, startled. "My face? How?" "Yes," Femi said, nodding his head. "I saw you standing in front of a mighty gate. Behind that gate was your blessing. A good job, plenty of money and comfort. But the gate was locked." He paused dramatically, making sure everyone was paying attention. "The spirit told me I am the one chosen to open it for you." Two of the neighbors who were washing bees nearby stopped what they were doing to listen with their eyes widened, ready to hear another of Prophet Femi's vision. Chioma frowned. "You are the one to open it. How?" she asked. "Through special prayers," Femi replied smoothly. "Powerful prayers that require sacrifice. Without sacrifice, no breakthrough." The other neighbors nodded in agreement, muttering, "It is true," as if they were co-visionaries with Femi. Sacrifice?" Chioma asked. "Yes," Femi said. He lowered his voice but kept it loud enough for the people listening. "You must sow a seed. Whatever you have, you should bring it to me. With it, I will pray for you, and within 7 days, you will walk into that new job waiting for you." The words entered into Chioma's heart. Her heart started to thump fast. She thought of her empty pockets, her unpaid bills, her hopeless nights. She really wanted a miracle and so wanted to believe Femi so badly. After a long silence, she nodded weakly. "Okay, I'll bring what I have," she told Femi. The next morning, she went to Femi's room with the last cash she had managed to keep away for extremely tough days. The entire amount was 9,670 naira. She placed it on Femi's table. "Please," she said gently, "let your prayers work for me." Femi, happy to see the money, placed his hand on it, closed his eyes, and whispered rubbish, claiming he was praying in the spirit. "Consider it done," he told Chioma. Well, 7 days came and went, but nothing happened. Chioma waited for a phone call, a letter, a sign, anything but nothing. Not even a call from all the numerous places she dropped her CV. She went to Femi. "Be patient," Femi said, waving his hand like a tired prophet. "The spirit is still arranging your file in heaven." Another week passed. Still nothing. Chioma returned again. "Sometimes delay is not denial," Femi said, picking his teeth with a toothpick. "Continue fasting." By the third week, Chioma had gotten tired and was now angry. Her stomach growled from hunger, while Femi was there growing fatter each day from eating the best food from neighbors. She wanted to confront him, wanted to quarrel him, but a part of her was scared to do so. One afternoon, she sat outside, just staring into space. Iyatunde, who never knew how to keep quiet, saw her, leaned close and said to her, "My daughter, don't worry, Prophet Femi will soon surprise you. He cured my cough with just one herb drink he got from heaven." Chioma shined her eyes. "A herb drink from heaven? How is that possible?" "Yes," Iyatunde said proudly. "Femi got special instructions from heaven on how to prepare the special mixture from a dream." Chioma became curious. She asked more questions, asking Iyatunde to describe the taste, color and smell of the said herbal mixture. Then she quietly went to the market to make enquiry about it, just to find out if it was an already existing herb or if truly Femi got it specially from heaven. There, as karma would have it, she met the exact same herb seller Femi had bought the herb from. The herb seller laughed and said, "That mixture, everyone buys it now, is a common efficient remedy for cough." This is when Chioma's suspicion began to grow stronger. She returned and sought out Mr. Adebayo also. She asked about the generator miracle. Mr. Adebayo just shook his head and said, "That generator worked only for a few days. It collapsed completely later. I had to call a real mechanic to come and help me with it." Piece by piece, Chioma began to gather the truth. Coincidentally, she met an old-time friend who told her he always saw Femi buying a lot of lottery tickets when she mentioned about Femi to him. So karma was really doing press up for Femi. Evidence against him were now beginning to appear. The picture became clear to Chioma. Every miracle Femi claimed he performed had a trick. Chioma did not keep quiet too. She started sharing her findings with others in the compound. At first, some people refused to believe her. "But he prayed for me and my headache stopped," one woman argued. Chioma just smiled. "Did you rest after the prayer?" The woman nodded, "Yes." "Then that was why," Chioma said calmly. One evening, as the compound gathered outside to enjoy the breeze, Chioma stood in the center and called out, "My people, we need to talk about this so-called prophet in our midst." Femi, who was sitting proudly with a plate of boiled corn and pear at the other end, raised his head sharply. "What do you mean by that, Miss Chioma?" he asked. Chioma faced him directly. You took my money, promising me a job. Till today, nothing. You claim you healed Iyatunde with a special herb from heaven, but I found out the herbs are just ordinary. You claim you fixed Mr. Adebayo's generator, but he broke again a few days later. You waived a lottery ticket, but you bought many to hide the truth. Femi, I put it to you that you are a liar and fake." The compound exploded with murmurs. All eyes turned to Femi. Femi's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "They are lies," he shouted. "Don't mind her. She's just jealous of my gift. Do not listen to her." But Chioma was prepared. She held up a bag of the same herbs from the market. She pointed at Mr. Adebayo, who was standing there, scratching his head. "Tell them, sir," she pressed. Mr. Adebayo sighed. "It's true. The generator only worked for a few days." The murmurs grew louder. Iyatunde opened her mouth with shock. "So my miracle was just ordinary after all?" Then Chioma shouted, "Prophet Femi, or whatever you call yourself, I put it to you again that you are a man of trick." Femi tried to argue, but the evidence was too much, and karma said no more. The Mumu neighbors who once bowed to him now surged forward with anger. Some removed slippers from their feet, others carried sticks. "Fraudster!" they shouted. "You used our head. You were using us for your stomach, abi?" Comic chaos filled the compound. Someone threw cold water on him. Others slapped his boiled corn away from his hand. The teenage children threw the empty corn cobs at him. Women shook their heads and cursing him as he dodged left and right. Finally, the crowd chased him to the gate.
Dust rose as zippers flew. Femi ran with all his strength, his once ironed and overly starched shirt tore at the armpit. Behind him, the whole compound shouted insults until his figure disappeared into the street. That was the end of Femi in that compound, as he returned quietly later at midnight when everyone was asleep to pick his clothes and a few belongings and ran away completely, using the little money he had left. From glory with lies, he fell back into disgrace, chased out by the very people who he thought would be fools forever, the people who once bowed before him. The end.